No, you don't need the.
I'm doing this my way.
He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend.
Talking on it though, then
He
you
a
can't work
legend.
it up later.
Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and rest in peace, Golden Guardians. They got destroyed by BDS today. BDS will be in the play-in stage. Golden Guardians will not. Today we're going to look at the teams that are in the field and take a look at the bracket. We're going to talk about the teams in order of their chances to make it out of the play-in stage. So first up, we're going to take a look at the teams through the lens of MSI. Most of the teams that are in this were playing in MSI. So first up, we have Movistar R7. They lost to BLG, which is just a tough matchup. They beat GAM, which is also in the play-in stage, before losing to Golden Guardians. One thing to keep in mind is that this was a different type of meta. There were more tank junglers being played, and there were more hard carry ADCs playing or being chosen, which is just a fundamentally different way of playing League. So like Aphelios and Jinx is much different than, a Kai'Sa meta or like a Xayah meta or, what will be in at this point. Let's get the scoreboards up from today just to take another look at the champions that were played. A lot of people are mentioning tank jungles as being a way to build up an edge in drafts, because it's like, the other team has to be good enough to punish you for not playing the tank junglers. I also wanted to go through the tier list that Perks put out. Wait, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is kind of what I'm talking about for bot lane. So Perks put out this. He put it out for a couple of different things. It doesn't mean that he's right, but it just shows that Jinx and Aphelios will most likely not be used very often at Worlds unless like the better teams use them against the bad teams. In that case, you can kind of play whatever you want if you're the much better team. But Kai'Sa, Kalista, Draven, Ashe. So we have some of the utility from Ashe. We have Ezreal, who's just a really good poke champion. We have Jhin and Varus, who will probably be seen a lot. This isn't necessarily like in order of like, Perks expects to see Kalista and Kai'Sa a lot, and then not a lot of Jhin and Varus. Jhin and Varus will probably be played a decent amount just because they're like popular champions when we get into a utility ADC meta. But this match today was kind of just BDS dominating, and we did talk about Adam being a big influence on this type of match potentially, and surprisingly he like kind of ran lane. I didn't expect it to go this way. I was pretty surprised when I woke up. It sounds like a lot of people were critical of all of Golden Guardians drafts, which isn't common, I think, from Golden Guardians to have just horrible drafts all around. They played the Nico support that kind of got slapped. This was like a range issue. And again, we had tank jungle, tank jungle, tank jungle. So, I think that might have been good in the specific matchup, but I don't really expect that to be the case when we get into the rest of the tournament. So back to the play-in stage. First up, Movistar. They have Bong, Adi, Miru, CEO or Seo, and Lions. Miru I recognize from playing in either Korea or China. The reason I wanted to bring it up though is because, just because Golden Guardians beat R7 at MSI doesn't mean that R7 is complete garbage because Golden Guardians lost today. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm getting at. Golden Guardians beat PSG, so does that mean that PSG is trash? Because PSG is the favorite to get out of the play-in stage. But anyways, Movistar is plus 6,600, so if you think they have a chance to advance, You'd be getting them at plus 6,600. I'm not going to be betting on them. Won't be spending too much time talking about them. Adi, not a jungler that I can get excited about just because I'm not familiar with his game. They're up against PSG in the first round, which obviously, since PSG has the best chances of making it through, R7's having PSG in the first match is not going to be a good look for R7. So I guess that's enough on them. Team Wales. This would be an interesting team if this was like Saigon Buffalo Part 2. But it's not. So B&J, I think, was on Saigon Buffalo last year, and they had, I think, Shogun, and they were like a hyper-aggressive ADC, which in a utility ADC meta, you can kind of get away with that. The ADCs that can be flashy often do well in that type of meta. B&J is a tank jungler for the most part. I think he did play Olaf a decent amount in 2021 or 2022 at some different events, but I think he's more of a tank player. He's been on tanks more recently. That could partially be because of the meta. They are playing against BDS in the first round, and this is the kind of spot where you kind of want, me personally, I kind of want to bet against BDS when I get the opportunity, but I don't think I'm going to take that shot in this first matchup because, I have a better spot, and I'll talk about that next in Detonation Focus Me. So Detonation Focus Me in 2020, I think they have 4 of the same players from 2021. Udapon was playing AD carry at that point, but they had Steel, Arya, and I think Harp. Detonation Focus Me is consistently at international tournaments, and they typically do pretty well. They were at MSI, and they played poorly at MSI. They lost to Loud. They lost to PSG. They lost to Loud. And then they got kicked out of the tournament. So the question is, why should we want to go back to them in this spot? And I think it's because they have a lot of experience on the international stage, and they're playing against CFO, CTBC Flying Oyster, Rest, Gemini, Jimian, Shun, and Xiaoxi. So we recognize Xiaoxi, but I'm not really afraid of the rest of their roster. And I think that Arya is a really good player. Arya built their name in the 2020-2021 seasons when they were playing for DFM. That's when you kind of heard about this young mid laner who the team is kind of completely changing their roster in order to get them into the lineup, and it was required for them to play a coach or something like that in order to make it work. And they ended up going to KT. It didn't work out on KT in the LCK, but then they come back to DFM and they're back at an international competition. So I'm pretty interested in DFM. I was looking at a couple of the different scoreboards from the last time they were at when they were at Worlds in 2021, because that was the year that they had a really good play-in stage, but then they went 0-6 during the group stage, and it's a much different level of competition. The other big change is the meta itself, and also their ADC is an ADC named Milan. I don't know much about Milan, but it looks like they're not a good Jinx or Aphelios player, which if you're a professional player and you're not a very strong Jinx Aphelios, that means you're probably a good utility ADC, because there had to be some type of meta that you were good in to kind of catch the attention of one of these teams. And DFM is plus 3,300 to make it out of the play-in stage, which really, I don't think that it's likely. It's plus 3,300. You're getting a less than 5% chance of them making it out. But if they are able to take down CFO, then we can assume it'll be DFM against BDS, right? If they win or lose that matchup, they should be able to. If they win the matchup, they'll be going up against probably PSG or Loud. And if they lose in round 2, they'll be playing most likely Wales or CFO again. And then they would have to play against probably PSG as the most likely to come out of bracket A. So the number 1 seed from bracket A plays the number 2 seed from bracket B. The number 1 seed from bracket B plays the number 2 seed from bracket A. So I think that DFM should have a chance to beat a team like PSG or a team like Loud if it gets to that point. And they don't even need to be the favorites in that scenario for this to be a worthwhile bet. if they're an underdog in that situation, they'll probably be like a plus between 300 to 400 underdog or less. So if you think that's an option, then you're really betting plus 3,300 instead of plus 400, which you just get a ton of extra value. And if they completely get blown out in one of these matches, oh well, it was like not a huge bet. I would say probably bet between a fifth to a quarter of a unit, and it's just a pretty not I don't know if I say high upside, but it's a pretty good value bet in my opinion. Next up we have CTBC, Rest, Gemini, Jimmy and Shun, and I would assume that Xiaoxi is the one who's going to be playing. I don't know much about them. I don't know much about the PCS. They didn't play in MSI. So I just don't have much to go off of. I just know that most of the Vietnamese teams that have gone here in the past weren't super exciting, and a lot of the players that I was excited about because of last year's like Shogun and like Saigon Buffalo stuff, they're not here, so it's tough to say. Maybe they can surprise me, but I like the consistency of a team like DFM. Also, I guess I should have also mentioned that Steel all played a lot of Xin Zhao in the 2021 Worlds. That was really a champion that allowed them to be an aggressor in the early games. And for a player that's been in the pro leagues for like 6 or 7 years, I think that Steel probably has a really deep champion pool. So I just like the upside shot on something like that. Then we have Loud. So Loud actually did they did beat DFM, which is a surprise to me. But again, it was a different AD carry, a different meta. And Loud was in Worlds last year, I believe. They had a different AD carry. They had Brance, and now they have Root. So Root is an import from Korea. He was not a special ADC in Korea, but just going from Brance, who was like a rookie last year, who was about 17, 18 years old, super young, super inexperienced, going from that to Root should be something that gives more consistency. And I was looking at the match from MSI this year against DFM, and you see Aphelios and Aphelios. So that's not going to be this meta. So we could see a shift where they kind of take a hit because of the meta that we're in. I got timed out. So on Bet365, they're plus 350 to get out of the play-in stage, which is kind of interesting to me. I'm not going to bet it at plus 350 because there should be spots where you can bet them. Like if they win their first round match and then it's PSG against Loud, PSG is going to be the favorite. And PSG beat Loud 2-0 at MSI. So let's find that. PSG against Loud. Okay. They gave up Aphelios twice, lost to Aphelios twice. That'll be interesting. I think that's probably going to be something we can figure out the first day. So like tomorrow. I'm interested to see how PSG, which AD carries they gravitate towards, since Aphelios and Jinx are not going to be realistic options. And maybe they say screw it, we're still playing them, but I doubt it. Then we have Gam. So Gam is playing Loud in the first match. Kiaya, Levi, Kati, Slater, Pallet, or Zin. They lost to Golden Guardians 2-0. They lost to R7, which is generally not a good look. People think of Vietnam as a better region than Latin America in general. I'm not going to be taking a swing on Gam at plus 300. They're the type of team where, like, yes, they're listed as plus 300, but they probably shouldn't be given that much credit going into this tournament. Then we have the second most likely team to advance is PSG Talon, and I bet I didn't look at this number specifically before that match today, but I would assume that PSG was the favorite before BDS, and then now BDS is minus 800. So PSG has to beat R7. They lost 3-0 to Golden Guardians. That's funny how that works. So for PSG, we have Junja. Junja is a good player. Ozzy, Junja, Maple came in. It was Yubao, I think, before. I think I saw that before. And Yubao was Uniboy. Uniboy went to go play in the LPL, I think. So Maple's coming in, brings the consistency of a veteran, and has been around forever. A lot of international experience with Waco and Woody. And they played a lot of Aphelios, but you're also seeing Varus, Zaya, Kaisa, Tristana. So this could be a good meta for Waco. Waco looks really familiar to me. He may have gone by a different name in the past. I guess it just like that. The big matchup for me is going to be, because I think DFM will sneak through to the finals of the play-in stage. So it'd be like, how does DFM beat PSG, and maybe I get a hedge opportunity going into that match, or if it's DFM against, it's not going to be DFM against. It won't be DFM against BDS. So it'll be DFM against the second or third. So probably GAM. I could see DFM. I guess this video is really just about me trying to convince myself to bet on GAM. To bet on DFM. And then last but not least, you have BDS. That could be like the biggest difference. Most of the teams that are at these types of tournaments don't give their top laner as many draft resources as BDS does. Like playing Garen in back-to-back games is hilarious. I think that I'm not gonna bet against BDS, like I said, in the Team Wales game, but by getting down a bet on DFM to make it out of this stage is basically saying DFM wins round 1, beats BDS in round 2, and then going into round 3 they're playing the second seed out of bracket A, and I think that is essentially DFM against Loud or DFM against GAM. And that's a good matchup for me, I think. And again, you get really good hedging opportunities. So I think I didn't have much. I didn't really have any money on Bet365 going into this because I cashed out all of my winnings from last year, and I haven't bet on them. Or I haven't bet much money on League of Legends at all this year. So maybe I have to put some on for that one. I think that's a good one. So I'd be looking for DFM. But hopefully after tonight we get even more information, and then that's really all I'm doing right now is trying to build up my knowledge for the main stage. Should be a lot of fun. I know it was a lot of kind of like, just like research and basically rambling, but that's kind of my process is trying to like look at this different information, see where my brain takes me for like what's going to be important. So I think if it's a utility 80 carry meta, Milan doesn't look like a Aphelios Jinx player, so that's probably a good thing for them, meaning their stronger champions will be relatively stronger, to other players' champion pools. Like that's their specialty apparently. Steel has a very big variety of champions that they play. Udapon, I'm sure that he can figure out top lane. It would be bad against the matchup for BDS, I think, but against Loud or GAM, I'm less afraid. Robo is kind of a lunatic, so that might actually be bad. Because I think I saw something before about Robo playing like Olaf in lane, which is just like you have to be a complete psychopath to do something like that. I think DFM is my call for now, but that's basically it. Let me know what you think about the Golden Guardians BDS match and everything like that. But That's all I got for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.